Students have been encouraged to take gap years between high school and college, but many graduates are reconsidering their options this year after a new report from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Economists at the bank say students who delay college this year because of the pandemic could lose more than $90,000 in lifetime earnings. Arun Ponnusamy is Chief Academic Officer at Collegewise, an admissions counseling service. He is with us now to discuss this. Arun, I hope I got your name right. Let me ask you, do you agree with the economists?
Well, listen, that number is one that's like striking. It captures hearts and minds, but it's one of these things that over the course of a child's lifetime, I'm not sure that $90,000 will mean quite as much as it does at this particular moment.
So then how would you advise people who may be considering a gap year because, maybe their college plan isn't going to work out the way they thought it was. Maybe their college isn't really having in-class lectures. And so they're thinking, maybe a gap year is a good idea right now.
Right. And, there is certainly reason for some students to take a gap year. If you are an athlete who is looking forward to 4 years of college sports, if you were someone who was going to major in dance and, the physicality of studying that just isn't going to happen online, it very well could make sense to take a gap year. And traditionally, I've been someone who's very supportive of gap years. I think they can be powerful, transformative experiences. The challenge, when we're in shelter in place, there's a pandemic, is what would you do that's purposeful, meaningful during this gap year? And so I think colleges will actually provide a more structured opportunity for students to spend their time in a kind of thoughtful, meaningful way.
So what kind of advice can you offer students whose families may have been financially impacted by the coronavirus and maybe sort of reconsidering their college plans? I know you point to some of the different fields of study that may make more sense than others to continue in a virtual way, and others that may mean taking a gap year is advisable. But what should people be thinking about just sort of from a financial perspective?
Sure. Very practically, it's important for a family that feels, financial constraints surrounding paying for college to be in touch with the financial aid office of the college or university that they are planning on attending. These are professionals who are working very closely with students to make sure that they can show up on campus, afford it, not, go into like unreasonable debt. And so that's, one thing they should be considering. I think the other thing to consider is, a gap year. If a student is able to get a well-paying, a job that pays them well for the next year, it may be something to consider. I think it's just that we're seeing that the market has quite a few constraints on that at the moment. And so I think for most students, the opportunity to go to college, start engaging with your education, ideally graduating a year earlier than a student who decides to sit it out for a more normal college experience. They get to enter the job market earlier, and hopefully they're going to enter into a healthier economy with more opportunities. So when you start weighing the opportunities now versus the opportunities in 4 years or in 3 years for the students who speed up their education, I think there's going to be more opportunities in a few years than there are right now. So by and large, broadly speaking, I'm encouraging kids, go ahead and start your education now. That's acknowledging the fact that, every student, every family is in a different situation. So everyone needs to take a look at their own circumstances carefully.
Just one of the many ways that COVID-19 in 2020 has sort of laughed in the face of our well-made plans for the coming year. Arun, really good advice, though. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.